Word of the Year is something I've been following for a while now, which makes sense. This channel is all about words, so logically I would have some kind of vested interest in a word dubbed the Word of the Year, right? For those not as word obsessed as myself, Words of the Year are chosen by a variety of institutions and establishments, primarily dictionary makers. The aim of a Word of the Year is to find a single word that perfectly encapsulates what that year was like. In the past, I feel many of these words have been a huge success, with them ranging from pretty amusing to outright profound. My personal favourite choice for a Word of the Year is probably Merriam-Webster's choice back in 2016. They went with the single word of surreal. This perfectly fits the general feeling of the world in this year. I'm guessing most people watching this video were alive and conscious in 2016. This was a crazy year which featured some huge political events which people believe would never happen. It was also defined by the huge amount of notable deaths which took place. Like, we all mourned the death of a gorilla for like a solid 6 months or so. 2016 was seriously a year like no other, and while Merriam-Webster could have just picked something more on the nose like just Trump or Brexit or Harambe as their Word of the Year, the choice of just surreal instead encapsulates all of these things and so much more. It highlights in one simple word how bonkers 2016 was to a lot of people, and when we look back in years down the line at lists of Words of the Year and reach 2016, it will make immediate sense to those who lived through it, and to those who weren't alive then, it will open up a great discussion. In my estimation, this is the gold standard for a Word of the Year and what they should all seek out to do. The Word of the Year can be a really cool and interesting thing, yet in more recent years I personally feel that the concept has been taking a bit of a nosedive towards the ground in regards to their choices, and this nosedive culminated in the year that just wrapped up, 2024. It was in this year that many of the establishments that choose a Word of the Year decided to culminate this nosedive by crashing and burning into the ground. Upon looking through the Words of the Year for 2024 in the process of making my usual video on the matter, I noticed a trend in many of them. A good chunk of 2024's Words of the Year are just kind of cringy and embarrassing and reek of desperation. Okay, so maybe I'm being a tad too negative here, but truth be told, I've been souring on the whole idea of a Word of the Year for some time now, and 2024's choices really haven't changed my mind. In fact, it's kind of cemented my idea that the Word of the Year is kind of just a big pile of slop these days. I think a key reason as to why I personally feel this way is that, to me, many of 2024's Words of the Years unabashedly reveal the true intentions as to why places like the Oxford English Dictionary, Collins, and Merriam-Webster even choose to pick a Word of the Year in the first place. These institutions are seen as bastions of knowledge and some of the top authorities on the English language. Because of their reputations, you may presume they choose a word to represent the year as a way of sharing some of their own knowledge and findings from the year with us, the masses, and making us think more about how words can be used to reflect specific moments in time. But in all honesty, a selection of words picked this year feel like really cheap PR stunts and desperate attempts to grab some kind of attention to maintain a degree of relevance or to just get eyeballs on their dictionaries. To be fair, this does work for them. Towards the end of the year, countless news sources from reputable to resented write articles about various words of the year, and those articles are way more likely to be written if the chosen word of the year is something silly. Like, what is your problematic uncle more likely to share on Facebook? An article saying that the word science is their word of the year, or an article saying a rude or funny term is the word of the year. Truth be told, I'm seemingly part of this problem here too, as I'm even talking about them in this video. The job of many content creators, from news outlets to YouTubers to even dictionary makers, is to produce an emotional reaction from consumers, so much of an emotional reaction that they share the content with others. Choosing a word of the year that is so ridiculous that it causes an emotional reaction gets the job done perfectly, and gets more people on news websites and on the sites who choose these words in the first place. That's all kind of a tangent, but understanding the psychology behind a huge chunk of online content helps us understand why these words get chosen as words of the year. By this point, you may be thinking, Patrick, you are way too angry about this. And in all honesty, that might be true. I'm sure you may start to feel the same when we actually look into a selection of words that were chosen this year and dubbed by some of the highest authorities on the English language as the word of the year. When you actually look into these words of the year, there is something of a common theme, that being many of them are deeply linked with modern internet culture, and and ways in which the web shapes our world. Take the Oxford English Dictionary's choice for Word of the Year in 2024. The OED is seen as one of the top English language dictionaries, especially for British English. To many here in the UK, it is pretty much the de facto dictionary. What this means is that whatever they choose to be the Word of the Year is seen by many as the one and only Word of the Year worth acknowledging. So in 2024, this prestigious dictionary decided that their Word of the Year ought to be brain rot. If you aren't chronically online like I am, then you may not be too sure as to what exactly brain rot is. This strange term has become the name for a specific kind of online content found on sites like YouTube, Instagram, and most prominently, TikTok. Brain rot is seen as incredibly low quality, short form videos which provide minimal actual information or contain any sort of substance. They're just videos to mindlessly stare at before flicking to another video. Think of a video of someone playing with slime, or even the classic of someone playing Subway Surfer while a clip of Family Guy also plays. This is exactly what brain rot is, and for a variety of reasons, including the sharp rise of AI content which infiltrated the web in 2024, it has become more and more commonplace on the internet. Brain rot is bad for a variety of reasons, but in all honesty, it really doesn't feel like a fitting Word of the Year. It feels more like an attempt to piggyback off a trend which has become somewhat of a meme unto itself, with the aim of getting more attention. But in their defense, the OED's word nerds didn't directly choose this Word of the Year. For a couple of years now, the OED has decided to make their Word of the Year a public vote. So really, it was actually the public who chose this. But the OED did still give the people a shortlist of words to choose from. This shortlist included other mindless drivel words which exist solely as an attempt to gain some attention, with words like demure, law, slop, romanticy, and even dynamic pricing all being present there. Speaking of demure, that brings us very neatly into Dictionary.com's Word of the Year for 2024. Demure is pretty much just a synonym for modest, and for the longest time the word has pretty much just sat on the sidelines. Yet in the year 2024, the word shot into the stratosphere thanks to a video uploaded to TikTok on the 2nd of August by a user called Giuliani, talking about how they were very demure or something along those lines. From here, the word became uttered all across the internet and probably on US chat shows or something. In all honesty, the initial video isn't that bad and I understand why it caught on. But there's an issue. The demure train left the station incredibly quickly. According to Google Trends, it peaked in popularity in mid to late August and then quickly dropped off the radar soon after into internet obscurity. Demure was fundamentally just another micro-trend of 2024, something that takes the world by storm for a week or so before being tossed aside. And I really ought to mention here, this is nothing against Giuliani who popularized the word online. Online fame could be fast and fleeting, so make the most of it while you can. What irks me with this one is once again the feeling of desperation that comes with it. Those at Dictionary.com just couldn't help themselves, could they? They just had to go with the word which everyone found funny for a few weeks and choose it to reflect the year as a whole. But then again, maybe that's the whole point. Maybe choosing demure as the word of the year symbolizes the state of the world today. Like I said, demure was a micro-trend, and maybe that's all we really have now. Maybe there's no longer huge defining moments which resonate across the year. Maybe now all we have are these micro-fads which take the word by storm for a hot minute and then get immediately forgotten about. Maybe picking demure as word of the year was Dictionary.com's incredibly clever way of encapsulating this whole idea. Or then again, maybe they just wanted the social media attention that picking demure as their word of the year would generate. Who's to say? Collins Dictionary once again decided to follow a micro-trend of 2024 when it came to their word of the year, as they went with Brat. This is once again a word that has existed for some time but picked up momentum in 2024 when singer Charlie XCX named her latest album Brat, where it became deeply linked to a certain image and lifestyle, especially in the summer which was dubbed the Brat Summer. Now I need to stress I have nothing against Charlie XCX either. She has made some really good music, but even she declared that Brat Summer was over in September of that year. This was just another small phase and trend of the year. Just to imagine a boardroom of word nerds at Collins decided to make Brat their word of the year. Collins seemed hellbent on finding some kind of trendy, memorable word to make their word of the year, as the runners-up were terms like brain rot, era, looks maxing, and even raw dogging. This is all very dumb in my estimations, but thankfully not everyone was this ridiculous. Cambridge Dictionary went with manifest, a word that's picked up steam over this year and isn't meme-based or doesn't feel as desperate. It means to bring something into existence, and it just captures a lot of the zeitgeist of the year. Merriam-Webster went with polarization, which is fitting and pretty self-explanatory too. I personally feel that the sources which did the best job at selecting a word of the year for 2024 were the American Dialect Society and the Macquarie Dictionary. The American Dialect Society is exactly what it sounds like, while the Macquarie Dictionary is a source for all things Australian English. They both chose the same term as 2024's word of the year, the wonderful word of Enshittification, which for the record I purposely said wrong. It actually contains an H between the S and the I, but I can't say it properly for monetization reasons. This is a fairly recent term which came into being in just 2022 and is used to describe the decline in quality of products and services, in most cases online ones. Take something like Netflix, which keeps going up in price while removing more films and TV shows and also introducing ads and such. It's a terrific word and it just perfectly captures the state of the world in 2024. Many online services are really dropping in quality, but so is the wider world. Things like the cost of living crisis and the shrinkflation that comes along with it also making the wider world seem worse too. This is the perfect combination of a great word and one that reflects the year as a whole as opposed to one specific moment. Well done, team. But maybe I'm getting too worked up about the word of the year. I just feel like many of these choices, especially ones with some of the more established respectable sources, just really did not hit the mark this year. To me, the word of the year should be a time capsule of sorts. We should be able to look back at it in years to come, and that single word should instantly remind us of the broad strokes of that year. Going back to 2016 and the word surreal, which does this perfectly. Places like the OED, Dictionary.com, and Collins should be following their own path, doing research and finding the perfect word which captures the events and mood of the previous year. This year, it felt like they just latched onto words made popular by other people in a desperate attempt to maintain some kind of social relevance. But maybe I'm just as bad as them. 2025 will mark 10 years since Name Explain began. That's a huge time in internet land to maintain any kind of relevance, so maybe I'm lashing out at these word choices in my own vain attempt to gain some kind of attention. But when we look back in another 10 years time, or even 5 years time, and see the OED made brain rot their word of the year for 2024, or Dictionary.com's Demure, it probably won't immediately conjure up an image like surreal does for 2016. I would probably just be confused and then have a faint memory of a silly meme that's popular for a month or something. Even going 20 or 50 years into the future, when people who weren't even alive in 2024 look back at these words of the year, 2016 and surreal opens up this genuine conversation about a time in world history that felt alien and, well, surreal. Meanwhile, explain to a 16-year-old in 2074 why Brat was the word of the year 50 years ago, you'd probably just see something like, oh yeah, it was just a short trend that happened at the time. And yeah, once again, no offense Charlie XCX if you're somehow watching this video. Many of these words of the year just give me the same vibe as when a brand joins in on a meme or trend and instantly makes it uncool. Hopefully, 2025 can offer up some better words of the year by the time the year is all said and done. Name Explain depends on viewers like yourself supporting the channel financially on Patreon, so a huge thank you to everyone who does. Donating just $1 a month helps the channel amazingly and gets you bonuses including ad-free videos, exclusive content, the power to request ideas to be made into actual Name Explain videos, and your name at the end of the video with all these awesome people. Visit patreon.com/Name Explain or click the link down below to find out how you too can support the channel. Thank you. Thanks for reaching the end of the video. Why not watch another and subscribe to keep up to date on all things Name Explain. You can find myself on Instagram where I'm Name Explain YT, and join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain to talk with myself and other name nerds. All that will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.